guys, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and if you like the video, please make sure you like it. In this video I want to talk to you guys about how you can get started on securing your first rent to rent, and I literally want to go through the steps that you need to do to make sure that it's like successful and the property that you get will basically rent. A lot of you that follow me on Instagram will see that I started doing rent to rent at the end of last year. I do that alongside Amazon more mainly, but I do rent to rent also as well. So I want to teach you how you can secure your first rent to rent and the steps that I did to get my first rent to rent. So one of the first things that you need to do is obviously understand what a rent to rent is. A rent to rent is essentially you get a property from a landlord and you rent the whole house from the landlord. You then rent out each individual room for like a set price, and then you'd take the profit afterwards. This is generally called like a house of multiple occupancy, a HMO, and there are different rules that you have to follow depending on the borough that you're in. So worldwide, countrywide should I say, if there's more than 5 people living in the property, you need a mandatory license, which means you'd need self-closing FD 30 doors in every bedroom excluding the bathroom, and you'd need fire alarms in every room as well, and you'd also need like a little book which keeps record on how many times the fire alarm has been tested. That's just the general requirement for like standard. If you have less than 5, so sometimes if you have 4, there's some boroughs which don't actually require you to have a license and you can just rent out the 4 bedrooms, but I would still add like fire doors just as a minimum and fire alarms just to keep them safe, but it's not a requirement. So the best thing to do would be to check with your councils, because there's mandatory licensing, additional licensing, selective licensing, and there also could be an Article 4, which means it would need planning permission for a HMO. That you double check what your council or what your borough suggests on how you operate a HMO. The next thing that you need to do is choose the strategy that you're going to use. So under HMO, there's 3 different ways that you can rent out the property. So one is to rent it to the council as emergency accommodation, and you can earn around £6,000 per month doing that. The second way is to rent to the council on a long-term basis. And the third is to rent to working professionals. So let's say if you rent it to the council's emergency accommodation, you'd still have to check them in. You'd have to make sure there's like little things like bread and milk supplied in the kitchen, because it's going to be like communal. And also you'd have to have like house rules in the house as well, just so that people understand how they're meant to behave. Generally, the council will put them in there for about 5 weeks, I think is the minimum. So you know that you're going to get 5 weeks of rent paid. The good thing about this is obviously you get a lot more money than if you was renting to working professionals, and also you know it's coming from the council, so it's guaranteed that you're just going to get the money. So number 2, renting to the council on long term. So that will be basically taking in housing benefit tenants, but they rent the room as opposed to renting the whole property. Third way is by renting to working professionals. So obviously you can rent to working professionals, you just advertise the room and you do referencing on them, credit checks on them, and rent to them. Obviously in this way you probably get a little bit less than obviously renting as emergency accommodation, but generally it's a little less hassle. Doesn't require you to be checking people in constantly. Once they've moved in, that's it. So now, once we've chosen the strategy that we're going to use, we now understand what HMO is, we now need to think of what area we are going to be choosing for our HMO. Now, generally, a rule of thumb, it needs to be a maximum of 30 to 45 minutes away from where you currently live. Because the last thing that you want is for an issue to happen in the house and you're over an hour away and you can't get to the property. You want it to be as close to you as possible, so it just is really convenient and makes your life easier if anything happens in the property. And also, if it's kind of near you, you'd have an understanding of the area and the shopping markets, and it's easier when you do viewings with the tenants to kind of sell it to them because you know the area yourself. So once you've chosen like where it's going to be, obviously remember it's a maximum of 30 to 45 minutes away from yourself. You then need to choose a property or maybe single it down to like a particular area. You need to make sure that the property that you're getting is close to the station. And I generally would say like 0.5 to 0.6 miles away from the station. Or if it's not near a station, make sure there's loads of bus links, so it's near at least the town centre. Then you need to check the demand on spare room, and I'm going to show you how to go through that now. So first, let's open up spare room. Okay, let's say that we're choosing to look in Stratford. So let's just type Stratford. Once we've done that, we can see that there's 352 rooms for rent. Okay, obviously Stratford is quite a big place, so it could be different parts of Stratford. So now let's check the demand for that area. So if we go to rooms wanted, when it loads up, search, we can see that there's 1,000+ results for Stratford. So that will tell you that there's quite a lot of demand in this area. See, there's different parts of Stratford, so you need to make sure that they're looking in the area that you've got the property. So the way that you can do that is to enter the postcode instead, as opposed to just doing a broad search of Stratford. Another really helpful tool as well is to check the average rent in this area. And what that will help you to do then is to break down the cost. So let's say that you found the area that you're looking in, you can then kind of see the profit margins that you'll be looking to achieve in the area, and then you know what you can offer your landlord. But this is just really good. Again, here, Stratford, 750. So it all depends on the area that you're in and the condition of the property. So based on other ads, if you want to say, if we go back to rooms for rent, so you can look at these and kind of get an idea of the condition of the properties and the price that they go for. And that literally is just a simple search of how you check for demand on spare room. The next thing you need to do now is how to actually source a property. So you can use Rightmove and you can use Gumtree. I find Gumtree really helpful because you're able to find direct to landlord properties, but also estate agents are really good as well. So we're going to go to properties. Oh my God, why has it done that? Properties to rent. We're going to say private. Let's enter the number of bedrooms that we want. So let's say we want 3-bedroom. So it's good to enter a price, because if not, you're just going to get loads of people advertising rooms. So if we put in, let's say 350, let's say £300 per week. Is that per week? So if we just scroll down, you can see here we've got a 3-bedroom house in Stratford for 1,950, direct to the landlord, because we've got their contact details there, £1,950. Really, really good condition, which is good. And then you can see it was only posted 14 days ago, which is really, really nice. It's been completely refurbished, new bathrooms, floors, fully fitted kitchen, all white goods, and a garden area. So the next thing that I'll be doing is clicking on here to contact the landlord, getting as much information as I can on this property. Does it have a separate reception room? Or if not, is it just the 3 bedrooms? Negotiate a bit on price. Sell your benefits of offering a rent-to-rent and how a rent-to-rent is beneficial to the landlord. And that's literally as easy as it is for how you can find your own deal. Another way would be Rightmove, if you wanted to go down the route of using agents. So we're going to enter our Stratford here. Again, East London for rent. We want a 3-bedroom minimum, hopefully 2 receptions as well. And let's start from the lowest. Okay, so that's room. So here we got one here, £1,630 near West Ham. Does it have a separate reception? So we can click on it. This is open rent as well, so that's probably going to be direct to the landlord, which is going to be really, really good as well. So that looks like it's the living room area. But if you wanted to, we could literally just board this bit up and make it into a bedroom. So add a little stud and a fire door. Obviously, I don't know the layout, but top of my head, that's something that I would be looking at to do. Oh, so the kitchen's there. So you could add a little hallway here, make another bedroom there. And then that's how you could make this a 4-bedroom. Okay, so then that's a 4-bedroom, essentially a 4-bedroom flat in Stratford for 1,613. Obviously, you can negotiate a bit on price. If it's generally on with open rent, it's direct to landlord as well, which is the best position to be in because you're talking to the person who makes the decisions. And yeah, we'll just scroll through Rightmove or Zoopla and just find properties, get on the phone, start talking to landlords, sell your benefits, and that's the way that you can find your first rent-to-rent deal. But you also need to make sure that you vet your landlord. What is your landlord's motive for renting out the property? Is it because they just don't want the headache, or are they in financial difficulty? So if they're in financial difficulty, there's two things you need to be aware of. It could be good or it can be bad. So if they're in financial difficulty, it means that they're more motivated to give you the property and get it on the market as quick as possible because they rely on the income from their rental property. The bad side of it is, if they're in financial difficulty, it means that their circumstances can change quite rapidly. They can go from you renting out the property to them needing to sell the property because they don't have enough money, or it could lead to them not being able to pay for any repairs that go on in the house. Make sure they understand that the repairs, the structural repairs, are still their responsibility, and that they need to make sure that they have the money aside to do the structural repairs. The last thing you want is to take a property on, the wall caves in, and your landlord is saying, do you know what, I have no money to do the works, I also have no insurance either, and I can't cover this work, and you've got tenants in that property. The tenants will come to you and the complaints will be to you. So that's another thing you need to be very, very wary of. You need to make sure that you vet your landlord as well. What type of contract should you be using? Okay, so the type of contract that you should be using if you're doing rent to rent is property management agreement. The reason why you should use a property management agreement as opposed to an AST or a corporate lettings agreement is because the management agreement covers you. So you are basically managing the property for the landlord and putting tenants in the property. A corporate let agreement is used for when, let's say, I'm one of the directors at Tesco's and I need to put my staff into the property. So I'm paying you money to put my employees into this house. Obviously, if you're running a rent-to-rent company, the people that you'll be placing into the property aren't employed for your agency. You're just finding the tenants. So a corporate let agreement is not the right agreement you should be using as a contract, nor is a standard assured tenancy agreement, because you are not the tenant living in the property. So if you use those contracts, it's wrong. The contract that you should be using is a management agreement, or if not, a commercial lease agreement. Now obviously, if you're using the commercial lease agreement, sometimes in the landlord's mortgaging documents, they're not allowed to lease it out their property. So you will probably lean more towards the management agreement contract, but you can use either of the two. So that's to do with the contracts. Now with the tenants, the contract that you should be using for them is a room only AST, which means it's an assured tenancy agreement, but just for the room. They're obviously not renting the whole property, they're renting the room. So it should be a room-based assured tenancy agreement, and I'm going to put the link of one that I use down below, which you can then download from the website as well. Okay, so let's go on to vetting your tenants. When you're vetting your tenants, it's always good to make sure that you do the credit checks, make sure you do employee references, previous landlord references, and make sure that you've seen their pay slips as well, or their contracts, to make sure that they're working. The last thing you want to do is rent your property to someone who actually isn't employed, isn't working, and you haven't done your referencing, because now you've got a tenant in the house that might not pay the rent and might not be reliable. You have to make sure that you're doing all your right to rent checks and making sure the person is actually allowed to be in the country. If not, you can risk being fined yourself. So it's really important that you do check their right to rent documents, and I'll also add a link below where you can check exactly what documents you need to be seeing from the tenants before you put them into the property. Make sure that the numbers stack up. Are you going to convert it to a HMO, or is the landlord going to convert it to HMO? So these are conversations that you need to be having with the landlord when you make up your agreement. Are you going to pay for the HMO license, or is the landlord going to pay for the HMO license? If you're going to convert it yourself into a HMO, then obviously you need to include the cost of putting in a fire door, which is generally £100 to £150 per door, not including the door, the alarms, the actual license itself, plus the furniture if there's no furniture in the house, which then you can end up paying a very, very hefty bill to get your first deal. So the best way would be to use the HMO register and actually find a house that is already a registered HMO. Save yourself some money, and all you have to do is basically furnish it to your liking. And you can see the way that I furnish my HMOs in my previous video, which I done myself. The only bit I didn't do myself is adding the stud wall, but other than that, I furnished the house. I got the fire doors installed obviously as well externally, but you can see how I furnish my HMOs to make sure that I get the right tenants as well. So I've gone through the contracts, vetting your tenants, how to find the property, how to check for demand, and I think that I've covered everything. I hope you found this video helpful. If you liked the video, press the like button. And if you have any recommendations on what videos you'd like me to do next, comment it below and I'll make a video. Okay guys, hope that video helped you guys. Have a lovely day. Bye.